Hello, welcome back to my finale of the Liberation of Hyrule Insanity's Extreme. First of all, thank you very much for being patient for those who are eagerly awaiting the finale. I will openly admit, I'm just plain lazy. And yeah, that's the sole reason why I'm taking so long to do this finale. Anyways, we just blew up the final Death Knight, and you get to see me collect all my cool items and stuff. And yeah. No, I just collected all my cool items. I just gotta refill my death. Collect my super bombs and then attempt Fortress 9. Well, not attempt, but succeed. Ha 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 ha. Anyways, I'll comment on rooms that I find noteworthy, rooms that I find drastically different from the first game, but for the most part, most of the rooms are copy-paste from the first game. So I'll spend this time giving my little review of this game. I do feel that this is an improvement upon the first game in a lot of aspects. It is definitely more challenging, and there are just a lot more high points in this game. Probably some of the highest points I felt were in the beginning of Fortress 2, that little boss rush, and of course I like all the boss rushes, and the bomb areas in Fortress 4 were pretty cool. I liked how the game started in Fortress 1. So overall, there's a lot of improvements and some new ideas. On the same notion, a lot of things were rehashes, copy-paste things from the first game. I don't really have too much of a problem with it, but I can see from a creativity standpoint how that can get pretty boring and dull pretty fast. So there is that. I do like the music selection, even though it doesn't really fit the Zelda universe. I enjoyed listening to it. I can tell James is a Mega Man fan, or at least a Mega Man music fan. So this is one of the noteworthy rooms. In the first game, there is a Goria room that had a little obstacle course, and I actually felt this one was easier than the first game. That's just me. I felt there was a lot less pressure in this one, and this being the second room of the dungeon instead of in the middle made it a bit easier as well. If you notice, in the first game, you didn't get any rupees by killing the enemies. With this one, you actually do get rupees, but at the same time, you don't get any potion refills. On that later. This room was harder than the first game because in the first game you had a lot more super bombs. In this one, you only have 4, so you have to use it wisely. You actually have to deal with the bats in this one as opposed to the first game. So, as I said, you don't get potion refills, but you get rupees to refill your life. And I know it's expensive to refill your life, but you still get rupees nevertheless. And I feel, my personal opinion, I felt that this dungeon was overall less difficult than the Fortress 9 of the first game. For example, while this room, it may seem to be harder because it's on ice, but the first game, you had your items disabled, whereas this one, I was able to use my golden arrows, which is a super broken item, and I just whizzed through that room. If my items were disabled, that room would have been much harder. Same thing with this room. The first game, my items were disabled. This one, I have my items, so going through all the whiz robes is easier than the first game. Because I can play it safe and stun them. Also, starting at the bottom of the room, I feel you're at a better position than starting on the side of the room as you did in the first game. So, this next room has only 5 Dodongos, and And I can understand why James did that, because you don't get to refill on your potions, whereas the first game you get to refill your potions. But despite that, not being able to refill your potions, I felt that this one was still a bit easier than having tinted dodongos. Even though I did pretty bad in this room overall, I felt less pressure. I feel overall less pressure from this dungeon than the Fortress Center of the first game. Despite me saying this fortress being less difficult than the first game, overall, Liberation of Hyrule Insanity's Extreme is definitely an overall more difficult game. Most definitely, especially the beginning of the game, and especially Fortress 7. Those areas were much more difficult than the first game. My only major criticism is actually the overworld. And hear me out. I understand that James he has posted in the forums that he doesn't really care about overworlds. And I like the beginning part of the game, but then the rest of the game, it was just, here, go to this, go here, well, it was just here, here's the dungeon, go here, there's nothing in your way, go to this dungeon. Whereas the first game, at least it had an attempt of an overworld. I would have rathered James copy-paste the old overworld and put it in this game than have this overworld. Just my personal opinion. It felt more complete with a difficult overworld. You know, you have difficult dungeons, let's have a difficult overworld. Go to those dungeons. Personal opinion. There's a fire wizard room like this in the first game, and I messed up pretty bad here. I got cocky. But it is overall less difficult than the first game, because in the first game you had so little room to work with. I think in the first game, what was intended was you utilize your super bombs. In this one you don't have hardly any super bombs to utilize. But this one you have so much more room to move around, and you have your items so you can just stun these guys. So I felt this room you could potentially take a bit less damage than the first game. Just because of your I'm actually thinking now, because the first game you could just play super bombs everywhere. So I'm kind of neutral with that one. This one, it's pretty much the same as the first game. I think there's a little less room in this version. And plus, you don't start off with a good alignment of all these guys, so this room is overall more difficult. But it's still pretty easy to deal with. As you can see, I'm not hurting on money, I'm not hurting on anything, and I'm pretty close to the end of the game. Can't think of anything else to say at this moment. Despite having the bubble be there is nothing too fascinating about this one if you've done the first game. If you haven't done this before, I can imagine that this would be quite frustrating getting blown away. There's one other mechanic in this game I almost forgot to talk about. The walkie-talkie system. I ignored it throughout this whole video series because I already know pretty much all the advice that it gives you. Not to say that I'm cocky or anything. I've learned a lot by playing Zelda Classic, and the first Liberation of Hyrule taught me a lot. And this game has helped me fight Goya 3s better, most definitely. And I did read the advice that it gives you very, very, very good advice. However, the placing of those walkie-talkies that I felt in some areas was not the best, because when you're in the middle of a tough fight, I don't want to try and avoid the enemy shots while trying to read a text at the same time. I would have rather have had my walkie-talkie go off right before the room instead of inside the room, and so I can read ahead of time. You just saw me destroy Ganon. I'm actually a lot better at fighting Ganon now than when I first played the first Liberation of Hyrule. I learned a couple of tricks. But overall, I still felt that Ganon battle was less difficult than the first one because of the lack of bubbles. I did get pretty lucky with my super bombs and killed all of the phantom ghosts. So I can imagine if you didn't kill them all, there'd be phantom ghosts out there trying to hurt you. But that was my first attempt. Actually, both Ganon battles and both my playthroughs were my first playthrough, so as you can see, I didn't have to use any of my potions. And you got to see me kind of cut the text a little bit early. I completed the game and I was just goofing off, and it's like, I'll go walk over there while I talk to you, Zelda. And yeah, that's what happened. It just skipped to the credits, so I was kind of dumbfounded, but I didn't feel like doing anything different. Don't worry, after the credits, you'll get to read the ending. It is a nice little twist of the first game. If you don't know the end of the first game, go watch my Liberation of Hyrule playthrough, my very first YouTube playthrough, and watch that. I died more than 200 times. It was more around 350. The reason why what I do is when I'm recording, especially when I'm recording, I go to restart when I die. It just makes editing a bit easier. For example, if I walked into dungeon with full rupees and full bombs, and then I die, and I walk into a dungeon with like not full rupees, I guess I'm being real detailed oriented, but if you were to pay attention and see my rupee count jump from 999 and then go to 850, all of a sudden it's inconsistent. So I just felt it flowed better when little details like that were more consistent. Also, I do tend to reset a lot when I die, even when I just casually play through a game. I do like having that 0 next to my name, even though it's kind of a cheating way of doing it, but let's say I bought a potion with rupees, and I die. I don't want to grind rupees to get the potion again. I'm just going to reset the game. Unless if I hit a major checkpoint or got a major item in that dungeon, I'm most likely going to reset so I don't have to go all the way back and get that potion again. That's just how I play. I like to save time and make things as simple as possible for myself. Last thing I mentioned a bonus video. I do still plan on playing it. I haven't attempted any of the extra challenges, especially the one that James proposed to me in Fortress 3. I still intend on trying it, but I haven't attempted it yet. I'm honestly a bit more interested in creating my own quest. I'm making pretty good progress with that, and I just learned how to use other people's scripts, so that's exciting. But yeah, I'm more interested in that than playing other people's quests at this moment, but one day I will get back, and I can't tell you when, I can't make any promises, but I do intend on going back and trying all the bonus challenges and making a bonus video. Anyways, thank you so